On today's deep dive, number 5, how to manage your time effectively. Cue title sequence.
30-minute music marketing for musicians who want to get better at marketing their music.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Sheldon, and this is 30-Minute Music Marketing, the show for DIY artists and independent musicians who want to get better at marketing their music. Thanks for tuning in from wherever you're doing so, whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube's, or maybe, I'll say this in a very sultry voice, listening to us on our podcast, which is available wherever you subscribe to podcasts.
Or maybe they're even watching it on the website.
Which is 30minutemusicmarketing.com. Unsurprising. How do they think of these URLs? So this is one of our deep dives. So we're not specifically talking about marketing per se, but it's all the other things that are associated and all the problems you might encounter. The topics if you are a DIY artist or independent musician. And for the first time ever, we've had a bit of correspondence in terms of what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, Donna Marie Songs.
Hello, Donna. Hi.
Hello, Donna.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, also a colleague in the studio, but also a very, very busy...
Very, very busy musician is Donna.
She's got multi-instrumentalist.
Lots of fingers in pies.
And she asked, and I'm going to have to turn around to look at the screen.
He's very professional, isn't he? It's almost like the reverse of auto cue.
How do you focus all your time, how do you focus your time to do all the things that Sheldon and I talk about to help market your music?
Yes, so in other words, people like me say, oh, you need to be posting on your socials, and you need to be videoing your gigs, and you need to be writing all your press releases, and you need to be looking for Spotify playlists to get on. So it's almost a curse being a DIY musician, because back in the old days, you were signed to a label, and the label would do all that stuff for you. They'd have their own marketing department. They'd get a PR firm in to do all that sort of thing. And basically, because it is DIY, you've got to do it yourself. How do you, as a private individual, how do you actually get round to actioning all the things that you need to do?
So as much as I'm sure many musicians would like it to be like the old days where you just did the fun stuff, Sheldon today is going to help us guide us through how to manage our time effectively to do the stuff that you might not think is fun, but actually could turn out to be quite fun in the end.
It could be, if you're successful at the end of it. Well, first off, I think what you've got to do is you've got to approach it with the right frame of mind. So first off, you have to be mindful of the fact that you are going to have to do a lot of work between now and the end of whatever project that you're currently working on. So you need to be comfortable with having a hard work ethic and working a lot of the time, and be comfortable with the fact that are you comfortable with the fact that you are going to have to do a lot of boring, administrative, sitting at a computer, not playing your instrument, not singing into a microphone? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with putting in the graft and almost seeing the work that you're going to do as a badge of honour? And if not, can you get into that mindset whereby, no, I'm going to roll my sleeves up now and I'm going to smash this?
Question I was going to ask you, Sheldon, is how much of a social life do you actually have?
I have no social life. The current musical project that I've been doing for the past 12 years has meant that pretty much I have no free time whatsoever whenever I'm not at my day job, which I do for 4 days a week. Whenever I get in, I obviously have to do the prescribed stuff that I have to do, around the house as much as possible. God bless my my fantastic wife who helps out as much as possible. But as soon as I get in, I've got to go on the computer and I've got to work. And and I'm happy with that. I'm happy actually making that sacrifice, because that is getting me closer to my goal and to where I want to be. So I would say the first thing you've got to do is you've got to create a mindset where you're happy doing that? And are you happy to make those sacrifices? Because if you are, then all the stuff that you have to do isn't as much as a burden and isn't as much as a pain and a grind. It's something that you almost see as a badge of honour. I mean, would you rather be busy and working towards a specific musical goal, or would you rather just, play your instrument in a nice sort of fashion and no one gets to hear it? I've got a driving force within me that wants to succeed as best as I possibly can, and that's what pushes me. And hopefully, my inspirational chat here can push you in a similar fashion.
And in terms of myself running a recording stroke media studio thing, it does.
I thought you were going to say Empire then.
Not yet.
You've got 2 studios. What do you want?
Well, yeah.
2 different rooms, anyway.
It just takes up, it ends up, I think the easiest way that I put it, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, but I already work really, really hard. I have a hard working ethic. As long as it fits in around the Xbox and the Netflix and everything else that kind of gets in the way. And for me, I think we're going to talk more about this in a minute, is, it's very, very easy to get distracted with just mindless stuff like the internet, which annoyingly does take up a lot of my time. And I wish there was a way that I could just literally kill the internet for a few hours a day so I'm not easily distracted.
So I think the next thing to think about will be, is it possible for you to ring fence a specific time in your schedule, be that on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, that you can specifically devote to your music? That could be maybe half an hour before you go to work or to school, college, university, or wherever. Can you devote 90 minutes in the evening each and every evening? And can you segment and partition and close off and allocate and dedicate a specific time to your music, in order that the other parts of your life, whether it's your partner, whether it's work, whether it might be children, can you allocate, can you get yourself organized and actually block stuff off in order that you start to begin to create those specific time when all those external influences, all the other things that you've got going on in your life, won't actually impact the thing that you want to make a success on, which is your music. I think that's the thing for me. If you can do that, if you can partition and create a little bit of a sanctuary which is dedicated, and if the people around you can agree to that and not specifically maybe bother you or make sure that you get that time. So in other words, if I've got a specific time that's allocated to my music, if people know not to try and take me away from my music at that specific point in time, I think that's going to be particularly beneficial.
I mean,
and comments, thoughts?
My thought. Well, I mean, looking at the notes, I think it is important. I mean, a lot of people are probably going to be in relationships or have children or animals or
children
both.
Or animals,
and
both.
And yeah, so I do think it's obviously communicating.
But it's
important.
very much so. And God bless my wife. She puts up with a lot, and she does allow me those specific times because she knows that I've got to get stuff done. But it's by identifying and creating those periods and trying not to let them bleed over into the other. You're almost you're helping to begin to create that time. I think the next point that we've got is, okay, well, what if you're saying, well, at the moment, in terms of my current schedule, I haven't got time to create like 2 hours each and every evening. So what you've maybe got to do is then you've got to do some sort of
sacrifice.
No, well, let's start off by going do an audit first off. Okay. So, if you've got a job, say you're working 5 days a week and you're getting in from work at maybe 6 or 7 o'clock until the time that you go to bed, it could be 11, it could be midnight. What are you actually doing in those 4 hours, those 5 hours? And is there anything that you can jettison that isn't particularly essential. So the first things that come to mind is spending half an hour literally going through Twitter that you've not been able to look at when you're at work. Maybe you might need to give that a miss. The Xbox, the PS4, maybe that's either got to go out the window completely, or you've got to ration it and say, right, on a Sunday, that's going to be my Xbox day. That's probably going to free you some time. Everybody loves a bit of Netflix and Amazon Prime, but it may well be that you have to say to Ricky Gervais, I'm sorry, mate, I've not got time to watch your brand new series because I'm cracking on with my music. So you've literally got to do an order and go, what is important if I want to make a success of my music career? And if watching 2 hours of Netflix a night isn't important, and let's face it, it isn't going to get you any closer to your music career unless you're watching a music documentary, perhaps, then you've got to get rid.
Yeah, at least the advantage with Netflix and, stream on demand television is it's near enough always going to be there, so you can watch it at a later point. Anyway.
Exactly. So yeah, going back to the you used the word sacrifice.
Yes.
Yeah, sacrifices perhaps have to be made if you are struggling.
So the next one you put is, and obviously these are all kind of continuations of the as we go through this list, is getting organised. Something I sometimes struggle with, Sheldon.
Yes. But again, trying to create, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later, a list of specific tasks and almost creating a timetable of your free time in order to maximise and get the most done. So it may well be that if you're getting in at work from 6, it may well be that 6 to 8 is when you've got to, do meals, house chores, whatever else that you might need to do. And it may well be that from 8 until 10 or 10:30, that's your allocated music time, and you might have 60 minutes of chill out time and a little bit of Netflix or a little bit of internet, a little bit of television, and then it's bedtime. And if you've talking about sacrifices, if you're finding that you've still not got enough time to have a good portion or segment of music making in there, are you prepared to go to bed 60 minutes later in order to create 60 minutes worth of music making each and every day?
I'd rather go to bed later than get up earlier. I'll be honest.
I don't mind early mornings.
No, that's not for me.
It's not for you. You have got a musician's psyche. But if you think about it, if you go to bed 1 hour later each and every night, that's going to give you 7 hours a week, which is the equivalent of almost a full working day. So I've created a day for you there.
And the other thing is, ultimately, I'm presuming most people will be commuting to work. So things like what we're talking about now, you could actually listen or watch on your way to work, unless you're driving, and then it would have to be listened. You can research whilst you're on your way to work.
Is that someone on the way to work?
That's a London number. Why? Sorry.
I don't know. He's not turned his phone off. We'll keep rolling.
I'll just put it on silent.
Okay. The thrill of live recording. Well, it's live as we record it.
Yes. Apologies.
Yes, but again, if you're commuting on the way to work on the train or the bus, in that 30 minutes, 60 minutes, could you be communicating with people on your socials? Could you be scheduling stuff on your socials? Could you be answering your emails? Could you be
editing video on an iPad?
Editing video on an iPad. I know some people who maybe shot some gig footage over the weekend, can edit it with an iPhone. There's basically, again, it's this. There's a saying that I often see in pubs to the staff, which says, if you've got time to lean, there's time to clean, which is more or less to say, if you're stood hanging around, member of staff, you've actually got time to do a bit of cleaning. And it's much the same as a musician. If you're literally sat there doing something as maybe passive on a bus, then you've actually got an opportunity to get your iPad, your MacBook out, or even your phone of choice, and get cracking on and doing some tasks. Again, hard work ethic.
So the next point is, and I think there are a few people I can think of that comes to mind, about who seem to have more than one project on the go at the same time.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm entering a phase whereby I've got my main band, my main musical project, and I've got the potential. I've got a couple of things bubbling under the radar. So how do I allocate my time between each and all of those? And I think a good place to start is, I think we've mentioned this before on the show, the Pareto's law, the 80-20 principle. One of those things whereby, excuse me, you allocate 80% of your time to your main project, the thing that you want to focus on, the thing that you think might give you the best attention, or creates the most money, or maybe even creates and gives you the most pleasure. That ring fenced at least 80% of the time, and any other time, say your 20%, that's what gets allocated to your other projects. And take it from there. I think the way that I am, it's maybe 90 to 95% of my time is allocated to my main musical project, just because it is so successful, and all the other projects that I have are very much at an embryonic stage, and it's difficult for me to justify taking my eye off my main project just because it is so successful, and it's very good at generating a revenue. To take my eye off that particular ball would be difficult to me. But even this morning, as we're recording this, I had a meeting with somebody. But you've just got to realise that your main project occupies the main focus, at least 80% of your time, and just allocate whatever is left to however many other associated musical projects that you have on the go.
So the next point is something that you've started to do, isn't it?
The art of delegation, ladies and gentlemen. Is there somebody that you could delegate who might do it for free? Heaven knows. If they can, then you're on an absolute winner. Or can you actually pay somebody to do stuff for you? And for example, this young man who's to my left, your right. You do some of my video editing and my video tasks at the moment.
I do.
In fact, almost as soon as we finish this, I'm going to be attaching you to a hard drive and getting you to sequence some of the footage that you filmed for us on the Saturday just gone.
Yep, we do that. We also help you with the recording from time to time as well.
Indeed. He's plugging his services again, ladies and gentlemen. Contact him for rates and details. But is there anybody that you know that you could pay to take one or other associated tasks from you? There are people who might be able to take your social media accounts off your hands, although as a musical artist, I wouldn't recommend that personally. I know that's a lot of businesses do that because A, they're not particularly good at social media, and B, they don't necessarily have the time. But I think music and artistry and having that artist-fan relationship is so important that you shouldn't really delegate that to somebody else. But
maybe you could have someone that posts and you just create the content. So that way you're still in control of the content, but you're not having to do the tedious of scheduling.
There are services that offer you suggestions for the types of things that you might want to post, and that could be good. But on places such as Fiverr.com, there are people who might offer to help out creating lyric videos, that sorts of things, and there are virtual assistants out there who might be able to help out with things like writing press releases, that sort of thing, and all the other little sort of minutiae of operating a business. Maybe even again, it could well be that if you happen to do your own accounts, can you get a virtual bookkeeper or any other bookkeeper? So try and identify the tasks that you don't necessarily want to do. Is there anyone you can delegate those to create more time for the good stuff?
You found Fiverr to be pretty good because the person doing the voiceover for our introduction sequence.
That's from a dedicated jingle service.
I thought you did that through Fiverr.
No, that was the title sequence.
Oh, the titles. Yeah, but that's what I mean.
I know, but the voiceover was separate.
Oh, sorry, my mistake.
People. It's all right. It's just an
but even
on-air
still,
conference. But
delegation.
there are people, and there are professionals out there who'll just do those tiny little jobs, which probably take you a lot of time. And you won't take them any time whatsoever. So it's a good investment.
And that's the thing. I mean, ultimately, a lot of people like to do everything themselves, but if time is of a limited commodity, then maybe the time is better spent doing something else. I mean, I have seen bands who spent weeks on an album cover, and
Fiverr.com.
and it's like they're trying to fumble their way through something like Photoshop, and it's just like, really, can't you just get this to someone who can do what you probably want in a considerably less amount of time and at a much, much better result for, well, I mean, what is Fiverr? Is it?
Well, it's like times 5.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Okay, so I mean, it's I suppose
It's still probably going to save you money in the long run.
I mean, if you work out how much your hourly rate is, and then you decide times that by the amount of time you fumbled your way through something, that's basically what it's cost you to do that. And maybe that's not as good value as you first thought. So using an external service might be a better idea. So Sheldon, strategies.
Strategies. You need a to-do list. I'm hoping everybody who's watching this, if they don't have a to-do list already, they will have one by the end of at the end of this particular show, and it could just be at its simplest form, whatever note-taking app you have on your phone, have segment it. What have you got to do today? What have you got to do maybe by the end of the week? Maybe what have you got to do, or what do you plan to do in the future? And that way, all these tasks that need to be executed, they're right in front of your face every time you pick up the phone, and you can just chip away at it, and you don't lose sight of the stuff that needs to be done in the next 24 hours. If you want to take the next step up, you can allocate specific time periods and completion dates by sticking it in your Google Calendar. That's not going to cost you anything and won't necessarily befuddle you too much. If you want to go the next step up from that, you can use services which are, I think, free at a very basic level. Project management services such as Wunderlist.com. We'll stick these in the show notes, and Trello.com. And we use Wunderlist at the place where I work, which is an events promotion company. And from an artist being booked at the point of trying to put a show on sale right through to the end, which might be 4 or 5 months' time, we map out all the individual steps that need to be taken. We have a particular completion dates for those particular events and for those particular tasks. When I go into work every morning, I'll load up Wunderlist, and each and every day it will give me a list of things that I have to do today, and it just helps me manage my tasks in a work environment, and it can work the same for you. And again, those will be free on a basic level as far as I'm aware, and that can just keep you up to date, so you just don't stuff, and it'll just help you keep on top of things.
From my side of things, what we offer our members is like a monthly tune-up session, which is where we sit down with the artist or the band and kind of work out a strategy for them to use their monthly studio allowance. So that way it gives them things to do at home, things to do in the studio, and it's kind of like a glorified to-do list. But it helps keep people, going through, and not the blank canvas syndrome where you don't know where to start with an idea. We kind of will work with them based on their needs, and our members have found that to be very helpful.
Yeah. So if you are in a band, maybe have a monthly reflection point whereby you can reflect back over the past month. That have you done all the things that you said you were going to do? Maybe make another list of all the stuff that you intend to do over the next 4 weeks, so that by the time you have your next band meeting in a month's time, you can check to see whether you've actually completed all the things you said you were going to.
You like to swap from task to task, don't you, Sheldon?
I think we decided. Am I a flitterer?
Yes, you flitter.
And in order to avoid burnout, I don't know whether it's just because I have a very low attention span at my advancing years. I'm one of these people, over the course of maybe 90 minutes, 2 hours, I will maybe do 30 minutes of Photoshop, and then I will maybe jump onto my DAW of choice, maybe 30 minutes there, and I'll spend 30 minutes doing my socials, and then I might spend 30 minutes doing another associated task, maybe video editing, and it may well be that projects don't get completed as quickly as they might do, but I tend to find that if I'm doing lots of different things over a course of one of my sessions, it helps me stay fresh and it helps me avoid burnout, because if I spend 2 hours doing full video editing, by the end of it, I'm sick of not only video editing, I'm sick of everything else. And I just basically want to pack it all up and go in. So at least if I'm kept amused and entertained as I worked by doing different tasks, that's how things stay fresh for me. And that's how I can generally work for just that little bit longer.
For our members, we don't tend to do recording sessions longer than 4 hours in one go, because people burn out. I want to capture people at their best. And, flogging a singer to death just because that's your only option at other studios because you paid for a day, I don't find is very conducive. So, having shorter sessions where people can come in and just nail stuff out and be enthused and energetic, and they're not tired and fatigued, I think is a better way of doing things as well.
So that's probably roundabout it for the topic of getting stuff done. Have you got any methods, tactics that you found worked for yourself? Stick them in the comments below. If there's anything you'd like to talk to, ask us to rabbit on about in a future session, whether it's to do with marketing your music or any other aspect of being a DIY musician, by all means, ask us a question in the comments below, and we'll talk about it in a future episode.
But thanks very much for paying attention, watching and viewing.
By the way, you have spent a period of time when you've not actually been doing your music, so I'm going to tell you off for that. But it's an investment.
Yes,
think of that.
Very much so. But anyway, thanks very much.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Ta-da.
Bye.